Hello class, welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 12.3, which is all about area of composite figures. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find areas of composite figures by decomposing the figures into known shapes and then adding the areas of those shapes. So first of all, let's talk about what the word composite means. Composite is when you have more than one thing put together. So in this case, it might be that a square and a triangle are put together to form a new shape. But we can find the area of that shape by finding the area of the square and finding the area of the triangle separately and then adding them together, okay? So that is what this whole lesson is about, is finding the area of smaller shapes and adding them together to find the area of a larger shape. Okay, so before we jump into some of that, let's talk about how we find the area of some figures. So if we have a parallelogram, you do the length of the base times the height. Now, a common mistake I'll see students make is if they know, let me get a pen here, if they know what this length is right here, students will often take this times this for a parallelogram, and that's not correct, okay? For a parallelogram, or for a height, you always need it to be connected to a right angle. Okay, so your height is always connected to a right angle. So for a parallelogram, that means that you're going to multiply the base and then whatever the number is inside the figure. Okay, and then for a triangle, you do that same thing. You're going to do base times height, base times the height connected to the right angle. But then for a triangle, you cut it in half. So you either multiply by 1/2 or you can divide by 2. It ends up being the same thing. You just can't do that twice, okay? And then for a trapezoid, you add the top and the bottom base, and you multiply by the height, and then you divide by 2. Okay, you cut it in half. And then circle, we just talked about that in our lesson yesterday. You do pi times the radius squared. Okay, and then just to quickly recap, if you have a square, you would just say the base times the base, or the height times the height. Okay, it's the two sides multiplied together. If you have a rectangle, okay, if you have a rectangle, it's the length times the width, or the base times the height, depending on what you want to call it, okay? So those are kind of, those key area formulas. And we're going to do some examples practicing how to do those. Okay, so let's look at example 1. Ayana is painting a sign, painting a sign made from a piece of reclaimed wood with the dimensions shown. What is the area of the sign? So if we look at this figure, we can see that we have a rectangle and then a triangle. So we're going to say the area of the rectangle, and then we're going to add that with the area of the triangle. And I'm just going to color code it a little bit for you. Okay, so let's start with the rectangle. So the rectangle is this figure right here. And so I can see that the two dimensions are 14.5, because this is the one that stops when the rectangle stops, and then height of 4. So I'm going to say 14.5 times 4 is going to give me the area of my rectangle. So when I multiply those two numbers together, I get 58. Okay? Now I have to find the area of my triangle. So again, I'm going to change colors. I'm going to look to see, okay, here's my triangle. I don't see any numbers written directly on this figure, so I have to pull some of the information from the other end of this shape. So you can see that the triangle shares the height of the rectangle. So that makes this side right here 4 inches. So I know I'm going to multiply by 4, and then I have to figure out what is the height of this triangle. So the way that I can do that is I can use, if we look, we know the whole length of the entire figure, right? It's 20.75. if I take away the area or the length of the rectangle, I'm left with what's just part of the triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract those two things in order to get the height of the triangle. Okay, so my height of the triangle is 6.25. Okay, so here's my base, here's my height. And then for a triangle, you also multiply by 1/2. So if I say 1/2 times 4 times 6.25, I end up with 12.5. Okay, so now I've found those two areas separately, but those two areas added together make my entire shape. So if I do 58 plus 12.5, I'm left with 70.5, and then I need to label it. So I have inches, and area we use squared. So that's how I'd find the area of this first figure here. Okay, if you have questions about that, please raise your hand, let me know. I'm happy to help you. I want you to break down this figure and see if you can find the area of it, okay? So we have a rectangle, and we have half of a circle, okay? Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully you found the area of the rectangle by saying 1.5 times 2.25, and you got 3.375 for the area of the rectangle. And then the circle, hopefully you noticed that you had the diameter, so you cut it in half in order to get the radius, which is 0.75. So 0.75 squared times 3.14 gives you the area of the whole circle, but we only have half of it, so I divided that number by 2, and I got 0.88. Then I said 3.375 plus 0.88 gave me 4.255, and then I just rounded to the nearest hundredth, so 4.26 feet squared. Okay, if you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to our next example. So now we're asked, what is the area of the shaded figure? So if you look at this, you can see that we have like a blue circle and then a white square inside of it. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to find the area of just the shaded blue part, okay? And the way that we do that is we're going to find the area of the circle, and we are going to subtract the square. Okay, so let's start by finding the area of our circle. So I can see that I have a radius of 6 meters. So I'm going to say pi times radius squared. So I have pi times 36. And then from there, I'm going to say 3.14 times 36 gives me 113.04. And I am going to subtract the square next. So I need to look over at my figure to see, what do I know about that square? I see that there is a side length listed outside of the figure. Okay, so that outside length there is 8.5. So I'm going to say 8.5 times, since it's a square, I can know that this side is also 8.5. So I'm going to say 8.5 times 8.5 gives me 72.25. So if I take the circle, which is 113.04, and I subtract the square, I am left with 113.04 minus 72.25. I'm left with 40.79. And then my label's meters. And we're talking area, so I say squared. Okay, so if you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Why don't you go ahead and look at this figure here and see if you can find the area of the shaded figure. Notice that we have, for the big figure, a trapezoid, and then we're taking away a triangle. So find the area of the trapezoid, and then subtract the triangle to get your answer. Good luck. All right, so for this problem, hopefully you found the area of the trapezoid, and you found that by saying 1/2 times, and then you took the bases, which are 8 and 18. You added 8 plus 18 to get 26, and then you said times 1/2, which is 13, and then you multiplied by the height of the figure, which is 15. So 13 times 15 gives us 195. And then you found the area of the triangle. The way you found that was you took the base, which is 8, you multiplied it by the height, which is 15, and you multiplied it by 1/2. And when you did that, you should have ended up at 60. Then your final step is to say the trapezoid minus the triangle. So 195 minus 60 equals 135, and then I label it feet squared. If you have questions about this problem or anything else from the video, please be sure to reach out for some help. I am happy to help you. Have a great day.